It has often been noticed in Heidegger's thought that in spite of his philosophy of moods, of temperament, of passion, that the very notion of love is absent. This is really important because he was a man of love and yet never incorporated the notion of love into his text, particularly in Being and Time. This is important for a number of reasons, and many people have criticized him for this because, for example, Karl Jaspers, his friend and fellow academic, said that Being and Time is a text without love, and any philosophical text without the concept of love or its consideration is itself not worthy of consideration. Love is important in the respect that his lover at the time, when he wrote Being and Time, was Hannah Arendt. And it's also important to remember that her first dissertation was on the concept of love in St. Augustine. So it, again, is another paradox that we approach, that even though he was in love with Hannah Arendt, and he did say that she was the passion of his life, he did not develop the concept of love in the ontological sense that he treated things like fear, anxiety, and general moods. How are we to account for this? It may be said that perhaps later on he did mention love. Well, in fact, in Being and Time he did mention love twice, but only out of direct quotation from Blaise Pascal and from St. Augustine, and not again. Why is this that death should have assumed such predominance in his philosophy as an ontological possibility, but never love? And I think it was Hannah Arendt who complained about this, who argued with him about this, but he steadfastly refused to incorporate the notion of love into his ontology. It may be construed that there are certain kinds of circumstances in which he did incorporate the notion of love, and he did later on, I suppose, when he spoke about the passions, as opposed to other kinds of feelings. But he certainly said that the passions, particularly hatred and love, were those which disclosed existence, which is to say, they were the originary source of truth, as opposed to, for example, things like anger, or passion, or not passions such as those, but feelings such as those, say, so that love and hatred weren't merely affects, as he called them, which had no particular object, but love and hatred were those with a particular distinction of having objects of love and hatred. And it was these passions which brought out, if you like, the nature of what it was to be, and ultimately were the sources of truth. Now, we're facing multiple paradoxes here. A man who can love a Jewish woman, when she was a student of his, refused to include, certainly in Being and Time, any notion of love as being an ontological category, joined the Nazi Party. What kind of love could that have been? Or what kind of passion could that have been? And it certainly was for him, because he thought that that itself was a source of disclosure, to come to the end of his life as being a deep lover of poetry, music, which he thought, along with passionate behavior, were the ultimate disclosures of what it is to be really human. Totenberg, Black Forest. Martin Heidegger, 1889 to 1976. Across the sward I see it, concealed almost, through this black forest of battalions of pines, static divisions, being without time, in marchless precision, rooted in abject determination. There it is, the sign, needled in floral insularity, window glinting in the death-knell hills, through shadows of crisp gloom, Heidegger timber statement in high-scented moors. There the clearing, sweep of light, on precipitous slope in the eye-bright vista. There the hammered dwelling in the fissure of illumination. See the house of the thinker, the enclosure in the wild, a planked human space in the gaze of fleeting gods, holding out against the ravages of forgetfulness and loss. And there the well, drunk from, in homage to the ancients, in thirst of longing for the mouldering knowledge of extinction. But the seer doesn't know, the oracle cannot see, and in his hut, drunk with nous, he undeclaims the word in silence and tolls the bell in darkness. Nightfall softly snuffs a candle, shadows bloom like moths, and eclipsed echoes in shapes of sleep dry the bones of unknowing and glaze